When Fu Han returned to the general's manor, you were sitting under the veranda embroidering a handkerchief with mandarin ducks playing in the water. Hearing his footsteps, you looked up instinctively, your eyes brightening for a moment. This was a habit you had developed since childhood. As long as he was there, your gaze would involuntarily follow him. Brother Han, you put down your needle and thread, lifted your skirt and ran over in small steps. How was the training at the drill ground today? I told the kitchen to prepare your favorite sweet and sour fish and also, Jiang Xiang'an. He interrupted you, frowning slightly, his tone carrying the usual alienation. How many times have I said it, you don't need to come to the general's manor every day. Your smile froze on your face. In truth, you had heard such words countless times. Since the engagement was set at 13, he was always like this, clearly not rejecting your closeness in his heart, yet always saying hurtful things with his mouth. Before you would act spoiled and cling to him knowing he was just stubborn with a soft heart. But today for some reason you suddenly felt tired. It is Xiang'an who has overstepped. You took a step back and performed a formal curtsy with perfect propriety. Since the general dislikes it, Xiang'an will return now. Fu Han froze. Usually you would have red eyes and say he was fierce, then continue clinging to him. Why today? He just started speaking when he saw you had already turned to walk out. Wait, he subconsciously called out to you. You stopped in your steps but did not look back. Does the general have any other instructions, General? Fu Han's furrowed brows tightened. You had called him Brother Han since you were 5. When had you become so distant? Since you are here then, stay for the meal. As soon as the words left his mouth, he felt his tone was too soft, so he hurriedly added. Anyway, the kitchen has already prepared it. It would be a waste not to eat. You finally turned your head, but the joy of the past was gone from your eyes. Thank you for your kindness, General, but my father wants to discuss some matters with me today. It is not convenient for Xiang'an to stay long. Discuss matters? What could Lord Jiang possibly have to discuss with you? Doubt rose in Fu Han's heart, but his face remained cold. In that case, go back. You curtsied to take your leave, and this time you really walked away without looking back, watching your figure disappear beyond the moon gate. Fu Han was actually somewhat dazed. Vice General Chen Yan popped up from the side. General, Miss Zhang seems a bit off today. Nonsense, Fu Han said coldly, turning and striding towards the study. But the hand holding his sword unknowingly tightened slightly. Nighttime, Zhang residence. Father, you knelt before Father Zhang, your voice so calm it was startling. Daughter wants to ask you to annul the engagement with the Fu family. Crack. The teacup in Father Zhang's hand shattered instantly. Xiang'an, what did you say? Father Zhang looked at you in disbelief. Didn't you like that boy Fu Han since you were little? When the engagement was set, you were so happy you didn't sleep for 3 days and nights. Now how? Daughter has figured it out. You raised your head, your eyes clear. Forced love never brings sweetness. Daughter shouldn't force others. General Fu has ambitions across the 4 directions, his heart tied to home and country. Xiang'an shouldn't be his burden. Nonsense. What burden or no burden? Father Zhang became anxious. If that boy dares to bully you, father will go into the palace to ask the emperor for justice right now. Father. You shook your head, the corner of your mouth hooking into a bitter smile. He didn't bully me. I realized it myself. All these years it was me clinging to him one-sidedly. When he practiced martial arts, I sent medicinal meals. When he studied, I ground ink and prepared his stationery. But father, have you noticed? He has never come to find me on his own. Father Zhang was speechless. Today when I went to the general's manor, he was still the same, finding me annoying, telling me not to come so often. Your voice was very soft. As if afraid of disturbing something, I suddenly thought, why do I need to demean myself like this? But your engagement was personally set by the Empress Dowager. Daughter knows annulling the marriage is a big deal. That's why I come to beg you, father. You kowtowed heavily. Father has always doted on me. Please dote on daughter one more time this time, okay? Daughter doesn't want to go on like this anymore. Looking at the red mark on your forehead, Father Zhang's heart ached terribly. You child. Fine. Father will go to the palace tomorrow. But Xiang'an, have you thought it through clearly? Do not regret it in the future. I won't. You stood up and smoothed your clothes. Daughter is going to pay respects to mother. Watching your departing back, Father Zhang sighed heavily. His daughter, had been stubborn since childhood. Once she set her mind on something, nothing could change it. But this time, she is probably truly heartbroken. The next morning, just as Fu Han returned from the drill ground, he saw Chen Yan running over in a panic. General, something terrible has happened. What is there to panic about? Fu Han took off his sword, his tone indifferent. Lord Zhang has gone to the palace. He says he wants to annul the engagement. Clang! The sword fell to the ground, making a crisp sound. Fu Han spun around abruptly, grabbing Chen Yan by the collar. What did you say? Lord Jiang went to the palace early this morning, asking the Empress Dowager to withdraw the marriage agreement. Now it's spread all over the capital city, saying Miss Jiang is unwilling to marry. Unwilling to marry? How could she be unwilling? From their first meeting at 5, she followed behind him like a little tail. When she said she wanted to marry him, she smiled like a flower. Impossible. Prepare the horse. Fu Han pushed Chen Yan away and strode out. Where is the general going? The Jiang residence. But when he galloped to the Jiang residence, the servant told him, "The miss went to Qingyun Temple outside the city early this morning to offer incense. She says she is praying for the Jiang family and won't be back for at least 3 or 5 days. Qingyun Temple? Isn't that the furthest temple from the capital city? Usually you were afraid of traveling far, saying you would feel uneasy if you were too far from him. Now actually, General." The Jiang residence steward bowed respectfully. The master said, "If the general comes, please go back. Regarding the engagement, there will be a holy decree." Fu Han stood at the gate of the Jiang residence for a long time. Until the main gate closed tight and no one came in or out, he slowly turned around. On the way back to the manor, for the first time, he felt the streets of the capital city were so long. The bustling crowds of the past became a blurred background, only Chen Yan's words, "Miss Jiang is unwilling to marry," echoing in his ears repeatedly. "General." Chen Yan followed carefully behind. "Do you want to send someone to Qingyun Temple?" "No need." Fu Han interrupted coldly. "Since she wants to hide, let her hide. It's just a young girl throwing a tantrum anyway. It will be fine in a few days." Only that night he suffered from insomnia for the first time. Closing his eyes, his mind was filled with "You're back as you left yesterday, so decisive, so strange." Clearly the person he was most familiar with, how did it suddenly become? The third day, in the royal court, General Fu, the Empress Dowager, sat high on the phoenix throne, her tone majestic. "Lord Jiang has submitted a request to annul the marriage with sincere words. I want to hear your thoughts." All the civil and military officials looked at Fu Han. When this marriage was set back then, everyone said it was a match made in heaven. The Jiang family, a scholarly house, the Fu family, a tiger general's family, plus childhood sweethearts, deep affection. Who could have predicted today? "In reply to your highness." Fu Han knelt on one knee, his voice steady. "This matter, allow your subject to go back and discuss it with Miss Jiang." "Discuss?" The Empress Dowager raised an eyebrow. "As far as I know, Miss Jiang has already gone to Qingyun Temple to sincerely worship Buddha and ask nothing of the world. General Fu, do you know why she wants to annul the marriage?" Fu Han fell silent. How could he say it was because of his one sentence, "You don't need to come to the general's manor every day"? "Enough." The Empress Dowager sighed. "When I arranged this marriage back then, it was because I saw you two were in love. Now that the Jiang family insists on withdrawing, I cannot force it. But General Fu, the engagement concerns the fate of both families. You must think clearly. Your subject, your highness," Lord Lin from the Ministry of Revenue suddenly stepped out of the line. "Your subject has a memorial to present. Speak." "My family's youngest son, Yu, is just 20 and not yet married. Hearing that Miss Jiang is talented and beautiful, gentle and virtuous, I audaciously ask to seek marriage for my unworthy son on her behalf." As soon as these words came out, the court was in an uproar. This Yu was a scholar of high honors in this year's exams, young and promising, with a dignified appearance. The Lin family, though not as prominent as the Fu family, was a century-old clan. Lord Lin certainly knows how to pick his time. The Empress Dowager gave Fu Han a meaningful look. "Lord Jiang, what is your intention?" Father Jiang stepped out and said respectfully, "Thank you for Lord Lin's deep affection, but my daughter has made up her mind and has no intention of marrying for now." No harm," Lord Lin laughed. "Young ladies always need to consider a bit more. My family is not in a hurry. We are willing to wait." Fu Han's hands clenched tight in his sleeves. "Wait? Why wait, on what grounds?" After the court session, he went straight to the Jiang residence. The master has gone to the Ministry of Revenue. The steward was still respectful but carried a hint of distance. "This general wants to see Lady Jiang." The steward looked troubled. The madam is not feeling well and is afraid it is inconvenient to see guests." "Is this general a guest?" Fu Han sneered. These words left the steward speechless. "Yes, by reason General Fu is the Jiang family's son-in-law-to-be. How can he be counted as a guest?" "But now, General Fu." Lady Jiang's voice came from inside. "Please come in." In the inner hall, Lady Jiang sat at the head looking haggard. "Auntie." Fu Han bowed. "Sit." Lady Jiang looked at him. Her expression complex. "Are you here to ask about Xiang'an?" "Yes. That child has been stubborn since she was little. Once she sets her mind on something, no one can talk her out of it." Lady Jiang sighed. "Han, I watched you grow up. I know you are a good child, but feelings, they cannot be forced." "Auntie, you don't need to say anything." Lady Jiang waved her hand. "Before Xiang'an left, she said that if you came to ask, I was to tell you one thing." Fu Han's heart tightened. "What is it?" she said. "From now on, bridges remain bridges and roads remain roads. Let us each go our separate ways in peace. Let us each go our separate ways in peace." These words pierced into Fu Han's heart like needles. She was actually determined to cut ties with him completely. "Auntie, Xiang'an she..." "Hun." Lady Jiang interrupted him. "Ask yourself, over all these years, have you ever truly treated her with sincerity?" Fu Han was speechless. Sincerity? He was naturally sincere. Since childhood, if anyone dared to bully her, he would be the first to refuse. She was weak and sickly, so he secretly sought out famous doctors everywhere. If she said she wanted the stars in the sky, he would find a way to pluck them down for her. But you always have a hard mouth but a soft heart. Lady Jiang shook her head. Clearly you care, yet you pretend you don't. Clearly your heart aches, yet you say hurtful things. Do you know that every time Xiang'an returned from seeing you, she would secretly cry for half the night? Fu Han suddenly looked up. She cried? The year we got engaged at 13, she was so happy she didn't sleep for 3 days. But these years, the number of times she has likely cried exceeds the times she has smiled. Tears welled up in Lady Jiang's eyes. I only have this one daughter. I cannot bear to see her suffer. Since you cannot give her what she wants, then let her go. Fu Han stood up, momentarily at a loss for words. After leaving the Jiang residence, the sky was already late. Chen Yan was waiting outside the residence. General, the Lin family sent someone with an invitation card. They said they wished to invite the general to a banquet. Tear it up. But, I said, tear it up. Fu Han's voice suddenly rose. Chen Yan dared not speak again. It was late into the night, yet the lamps in the general's manor were lit one after another. Fu Han sat in the study room. On the table lay a wooden box. It contained everything you had given him: sachets, jade pendants, a pastry box made by your own hand, and that mandarin duck handkerchief that was only half embroidered. He picked up the handkerchief, his fingertips rubbing against the fine dense stitches. Mandarin ducks always come in pairs, but unfortunately only one was embroidered. The other, I fear, will never be completed. General. A personal guard reported from outside the door. News from Qingyun Temple. Miss Jiang is doing well, but she refuses to see anyone. Refuses to see anyone, including him. Fu Han smiled bitterly. He suddenly remembered something from many years ago. That year you were only 8 years old, following Lady Jiang to visit the general's manor. He was practicing his sword, and you sat obediently under the eaves watching, your eyes shining brightly. Brother Han is amazing. You clapped your little hands. Your face full of adoration. He felt a bit uncomfortable being watched by you, so he deliberately put on a stern face. Little girl, what do you know about being amazing or not? You were scolded by him, and your eyes immediately turned red. But after a little while, you smiled and gathered around him again. Brother Han, let me wipe your sweat. Back then, you were always like this. No matter how harshly he treated you, you would smile and forgive him. But now, General? The personal guard saw him remain silent for a long time and couldn't help but call out again. Withdraw. Fu Han waved his hand. That night, rain began to fall in the capital city. It was pitter-pattering, sounding like someone was crying. On the 5th day at Qingyun Temple, you knelt before the Buddha, your heart as still as water. Miss Qing'er hurried in. The general's manor sent someone again. This time it was Vice General Chen personally. He said there is an urgent matter. I will not see him. You opened your eyes, your voice calm. But Vice General Chen said the general is sick. Your hand trembled slightly, but you quickly recovered. Then please ask Vice General Chen to convey a message. Xiang'an has already copied a volume of the Medicine Buddha Sutra for the general's manor to pray for his good health. Qing'er wanted to speak but stopped, eventually retreating. You closed your eyes again and continued chanting the sutra. Only the string of prayer beads in your hand was unknowingly gripped tight enough to leave deep indentations. Outside the temple, Chen Yan looked helplessly at the sutra in his hand. Did Miss Jiang really say nothing else? Yes. The miss only said to have you bring the sutra back. The young novice monk answered respectfully. Chen Yan sighed. The general wasn't sick, he was clearly anxious. For the past few days, he has had no thought for food or drink, and he has lost a whole circle of weight. Yet he still insists on being stubborn, refusing to come personally. Then please trouble you to tell Miss Jiang again that young Master He Yu from Lord Lin's family at the Ministry of Revenue will also come to Qingyun Temple to offer incense these next 2 days. He says he admires the Dharma and wishes to stay at the temple for a few days. The young novice monk went away to deliver the message. Inside the meditation room, hearing these words, the corner of your mouth curled into a self-deprecating smile. He is indeed a smart man, knowing how to cater to one's interests. Unfortunately, right now, you cannot muster any interest in anyone. Miss, Qing'er said worriedly. Do you want to change to another place? No need. You shook your head. Qingyun Temple is so large, we might not necessarily run into him. But some things, the more you don't want them to happen, the more they do. The next morning, you went to the back mountain to gather herbs and happened to run into He Yu, who had also woken up early. Miss Jiang, he greeted with elegance and propriety, advancing and retreating with measured grace. His moon-white brocade robe made his posture look like a pine tree, and the noble air between his brows was natural, completely different from any other man you had met. You nodded slightly and was about to walk around him. Miss Jiang, please stay. He did not pester, but simply took out a medicine basket. I happened upon some fine Chinese angelica. I know Miss is skilled in medicine. May I ask Miss to examine it? Chinese angelica. You pause in your steps. Chinese angelica. The name implies should return, he said softly, his gaze clear and moist like a spring. But alas, not all partings in this world deserve looking back. You turned back to look at him. He was smiling gently, his eyes holding a clarity that saw through everything. There was no pity, no curiosity, only a peaceful respect. Master, he is thoughtful. You took the medicine basket. It is indeed of high quality. Then please accept it as a gift. He took a step back, maintaining a perfectly appropriate distance. It is cold in the temple. Miss, please take care of your body. Farewell. Watching his receding figure, you were slightly lost in thought. So there really are people like this in the world, like a gentle breeze brushing against one's face, stirring up no dust. Unlike a certain someone who forever carries thorns that hurt others, Miss Chinger stepped forward. This young master He-Yu is truly just as the rumors say. Let's go. You didn't continue the conversation but carefully put away the Chinese Angelica. However, a very faint ripple spread at the bottom of your heart for that rare comfort and propriety. That very night, Fu Han received the news. He-Yu gave her medicinal herbs, and she accepted them, his hand holding the teacup squeezed until it turned white. Yes, the spy trembled. I heard they exchanged a few words. Miss Jiang seemingly did not reject him. Crack, the teacup shattered in response. Fresh blood flowed down through his fingers. But he seemed unaware of it. She didn't reject him? She hid from seeing him, yet spoke with another man. General? Chen Yan hurriedly stepped forward to bandage him. You are prepare the horse. Fu Han pushed him away. Where is the general going? Qingyun Temple. But it is already the third watch right now. Chen Yan dared not disobey and had to prepare the horse overnight. Galloping all the way, it was just beginning to get light when they arrived at Qingyun Temple. Donor. The monk on duty blocked Fu Han, who was radiating killing intent. The temple gates are not yet open, please. This general wants to see Jiang Xiang'an. This donor Jiang is currently doing her morning lessons. It is not convenient to disturb her. Then this general will wait right here, Fu Han said coldly. Until she comes out. The news quickly reached your ears. Miss? Chinger said anxiously. The general is standing outside the mountain gate. He insists on seeing you. It's so cold. Let him be. You closed your eyes, your voice devoid of any waves, but... Chinger. You opened your eyes. Do you still remember the Mid-Autumn Festival 3 years ago? Chinger froze. I remember that time you waited outside the residence for the general for a whole night, but he went to the military camp and sent Vice General Chen to say no need to wait. Yes, you smiled, but the smile did not reach your eyes. That time I ran a high fever and was sick for 7 days. Did he ever come to take a single look? Not even a greeting. Chinger was speechless, so it's his turn to wait. You closed your eyes again. Go tell him that I'm going into seclusion today to copy sutras and will see no one. If he is willing to wait, then let him wait. Fu Han stood outside the mountain gate for an entire day, from the rising sun to the setting sun, from the morning dew to the frost at dusk. Monks and pilgrims came and went, unable to resist casting glances at him. The renowned general who conquers the West, reduced to such a wretched state, donor. The sweeping monk couldn't bear it and stepped forward to persuade him. It is late, why not go back and rest first? Fu Han ignored him, his gaze stubbornly fixed on the interior of the temple. Chen Yan was so anxious he was pacing in circles beside him. General, you haven't eaten anything all day. Should this subordinate go buy some? No need. But your hand. Fu Han finally lowered his head to look at his hand wrapped in cloth. The wound from crushing the teacup last night had split open again, and dark red blood seeped through the white cloth. It didn't matter. Compared to the bony roding emptiness in his heart, this flesh wound was nothing. Night fell, and the mountain wind was biting cold. Fu Han's lips were purple from the cold, and his body began to tremble slightly. When He-Yu returned from outside the temple, this was the scene he saw. He paused in his steps, did not step forward, but only gave a few low instructions to the servant beside him, then calmly entered the temple. A moment later, the servant approached Fu Han with a food box and a thick cloak. General Fu, the servant said respectfully, my master said the mountain wind is harsh. Please take care of your health. Some hot porridge and clothing are a small token of his regard. Fu Han looked up abruptly, anger flaring in his eyes. Take it away, this general doesn't need his fake kindness. Please calm down, general. The servant was neither humble nor arrogant. My master also said that dignity is what you preserve for yourself, not for others to see. If you collapse here, you will only add to Miss Jiang's distress. Those words were like a physical slap across Fu Han's face. He clenched his hands into tight fists, only to let them hang limp in defeat. The servant boy placed the items down, bowed and left. Fu Han stared at the exquisitely made cloak and the food box steaming with heat. They only stung his eyes. He did not touch them. By midnight, Fu Han finally could hold on no longer. The high fever returned with a vengeance, and his vision began to blur. General. Chen Yan caught him as he swayed unsteadily. We must go back. You will lose your life if this continues. No, I'm not going. Fu Han pushed him away, his voice hoarse. If she doesn't come out, I'm not leaving. Why put yourself through this? Why put myself through this? Fu Han gave a tragic smile, his consciousness already slipping. Chen Yan, I think I see her as she was at 8 years old. She is standing right there, smiling at me. How did I lose her? Before he could finish, he pitched straight forward and collapsed. General, the commotion alerted those inside the temple. Young Miss, Qing'er rushed in flustered. The general has fainted. The brush in your hand paused, and a drop of ink fell onto the rice paper, spreading quickly. What happened to him? Your voice was strung tight. It seems to be a fever-induced fainting spell. Vice General Chen is anxiously looking for people to carry him down the mountain. You stood up abruptly, your fingernails digging into your palms. A moment later, you forced yourself to slowly sit back down. What does that have to do with me? But young miss, let them go. You turned around your back to Qing'er. General Fu is blessed by the heavens. He will have divine protection. Qing'er looked at your ramrod straight back and your slightly trembling sleeves, but ultimately said nothing. However, early the next morning, you learned that he had not gone down the mountain, but was instead placed in an inn at the foot of the mountain, critically ill. After hesitating for a long time, you took out a bottle of wound medicine you had mixed yourself and called for Qing'er. Find an unfamiliar young novice monk. Anonymously deliver this medicine to the inn and give it to Vice General Chen. Your tone was cold and hard. Just say, it is a commonly stocked medicine from the temple, a simple gesture of hospitality. Why doesn't the young miss just go now? You interrupted her, your tone brooking no argument. You would never let him know that you could still soften your heart towards him, not even a little bit. At the inn, at the foot of the mountain, Fu Han remained unconscious for 2 days, muttering deliriously, repeatedly chanting your name and hackneyed apologies. Chen Yan stood guard by his side with red-rimmed eyes. On the 3rd day, Fu Han struggled into consciousness. The first thing he did was still to ask if you had come. When he received a negative answer, the last glimmer of light in his eyes was completely extinguished. He began to cough violently, actually coughing up specks of blood. General, it's nothing. He waved a hand dismissively, his face as white as gold paper, staring hollowly at the top of the bed canopy. Since she hates me so, then I will no longer disturb her peace. He struggled to sit up, his voice terribly hoarse. Chen Yan, pack our things. We are returning to the capital. General, your body, return to the capital. He almost roared the words, followed immediately by another fit of choking coughs. He vomited a mouthful of fresh blood, which splashed onto the pale bedding, shocking to the eyes. Even if I die, I must not die in front of her, causing her annoyance. Chen Yan was shocked senseless and hurriedly agreed. That afternoon, a carriage left Qingyun town in silence. When the news reached you, you were flipping through the rare medical books Yu had gifted you. There were actually detailed annotations in his handwriting on the pages. His insights were unique and coincided perfectly with your own thoughts. You stared blankly at his sharp but upright handwriting, lost in thought for a moment. Young miss, Qing'er reported in a low voice. The general, he set off for the capital at noon. When he left, he vomited blood. His condition is very bad. Your fingertips trembled sharply, creating a faint crease on the page. The room fell into dead silence. A long time later, you finally let out a soft as if it were just an unimportant piece of news. Then you slowly lowered your head and continued to look at the book in your hands. But your gaze did not move for the longest time. Outside the window, a light rain had started at some unknown time beating against the banana leaves. Thump, thump. One sound after another, landing heavily on your heart. You knew that some endings were written the moment he said, "You don't need to come every day." A broken mirror is difficult to put back together. Spilled water can never be recovered. 7 days later, in the capital city, news quietly spread that Fu Han was critically ill with no sign of recovery. Physicians from the Imperial Medical Office went in and out of the general's manor one after another, but all shook their heads and sighed, saying it was a depression of the heart and medicine was ineffective. It all depended on his own will. The general's manor, which used to be visited by crowds, suddenly became desolate and empty. Fu Han lay on his sickbed, his form wasted and skeletal. He often stared in trance at a withered jasmine outside the window. You had planted it with your own hands many years ago, and now it had followed its master into withering. He never sent anyone to look for you again, as if he had truly disappeared from your world completely. At the same time, inside Qingyun Temple, Yu did not make any hasty moves because of Fu Han's departure. He still occasionally stayed at the temple, donating books and medicine, discussing medical principles and Buddhist sutras with you. His words and actions always abided by the boundaries of a gentleman's friendship, calm and unhurried, making one feel like bathing in a spring breeze. He never asked about your past with Fu Han, nor did he deliberately try to curry favor. He only quietly left when you needed quiet, and handed you a cup of tea at just the right moment when a hint of tiredness appeared between your brows. His very existence was like a silent declaration. Some people treat you as a treasure, while others discard you like worn-out shoes. A month later, in the Empress Dowager's palace, because Fu Han had been ill for a long time and the Jiang family was determined to break the engagement, that marriage which was once the envy of everyone was formally dissolved. The Empress Dowager looked at the much thinner Fu Han and could only let out a sigh. It was also during this audience that Lord Lin, The Vice Minister of Revenue once again solemnly requested the Empress Dowager's permission for his heir, He Yu, to marry the Jiang family's daughter. He spoke highly of his character and talents with sincere words. This time, Father Jiang did not refuse immediately. Only pondering for a moment. My daughter is stubborn in nature. The marriage still needs long-term consideration. He Yu himself, when meeting you outside the palace gate, did not mention a single word about this matter. He only smiled faintly and said, a new bookstore has opened in the west of the city. There are quite a few medical cases from the previous dynasty. If you are interested, Miss Jiang, we can go visit together another day. His gaze was clear and magnanimous, holding only appreciation for a like-minded individual, and nothing else. Another 2 months passed. Fu Han's illness improved slightly, and he barely managed to return to court. He seemed like a changed person. His past sharpness was completely gone, and he became silent and withdrawn. He often stared in a trance in the direction of your father during court sessions. Once, on the way back from court, his carriage and your sedan chair met on a narrow path. He immediately called for his carriage to stop and lifted the curtain to look over. You also lifted the sedan curtain slightly, and your eyes met. Countless complex emotions surged into his eyes instantly: regret, pain, longing. His lips trembled, as if he wanted to say something. You merely nodded at him calmly and distantly, as you would to any unfamiliar court colleague, then gently let the curtain drop, cutting off all the words he had not yet spoken. The sedan chair moved forward slowly, without a single shred of attachment. Fu Han froze in place, his face instantly turning as pale as paper. He suddenly covered his chest with his hand and began to breathe heavily, cold sweat breaking out densely on his forehead. His attendants were scared out of their wits and hurriedly stepped forward to support him. Half a year later, at a palace banquet, you and He Yu were invited to attend. During the banquet, a member of the imperial clan, fueled by alcohol, brought up the past. His words were full of mockery, implying that you had found a higher branch to perch on. Your expression did not change. Just as you were about to speak, He Yu at your side calmly raised his cup. With a smile on his lips but a cold, sharp gaze, he looked straight at that person. His voice was not loud, but it carried weight. Miss Jiang has the purest virtue and the brightest spirit. Her choices are made only because she's willing, and for no other reason. Your words not only look down on Miss Jiang but also look down on all reasonable people present. He toasts you with this cup. May you speak and act with caution? His words were neither humble nor arrogant. He not only defended your dignity but also left the other person speechless. The whole banquet fell silent, and then several heavy ministers nodded one after another in agreement. That member of the imperial clan turned red with shame and did not dare to speak another word. From this incident, He Yu's talent, learning and character became famous throughout the court. No one dared to criticize him again. You looked at He Yu beside you, he happened to be looking at you too. There was no trace of arrogance in his eyes, only a hint of inquiry, as if asking, are you well? That last frozen corner in your heart quietly cracked a thin fissure. And Fu Han, sitting in the opposite corner the whole time, watched all this with his own eyes. He watched how He Yu calmly and unhurriedly protected you, and how you showed He Yu a peace and recognition he had never received. The wine cup in his hand was almost crushed. The barren void in his heart grew wildly, and regret and despair wrapped around and gnawed at his heart like poisonous vines, yet he didn't even have the qualification to take a single step forward. Not long after the palace banquet, on an afternoon when pear blossoms were in full bloom, He Yu hosted a quiet banquet at a villa in the suburbs of the capital, inviting only you, pavilions and waterside terraces, elegant and free of any extravagance. He did not say much, only burning incense and brewing tea, discussing the Tao and appreciating paintings with you. At parting, he took out a century-old wild ginseng of excellent quality. I heard that Lord Jiang has been slightly unwell recently. This item might be useful. His tone was natural, as if it were just a casual gesture. My father and Lord Jiang serve in the court together. It is only right to show concern. You looked at him and suddenly spoke. Why has Master Lin not married until now? He Yu was slightly stunned, then smiled, looking at you with clear, bright eyes. Once I saw the bright moon in the clouds. I felt all the stars were dim. He is just waiting for a breeze to blow away some of the fog. His answer was subtle, but the meaning was obvious. At that moment, looking at his clear and handsome brows and eyes, and the unreserved appreciation and seriousness in his pupils, your heart suddenly became clear. So this is what it feels like to be cherished. You slowly took the ginseng and said softly, thank you, another day my father should personally thank Lord Lin. An incredibly bright light burst into He Yu's eyes. He bowed deeply. He will wait for the good news. On the same day, inside the general's manor, when Fu Han heard the news that you had accepted He Yu's lavish gift and promised Father Jiang that he would visit to express his gratitude, he completely lost control. He smashed everything within reach in his study, including the precious wooden box that held every gift you had ever given him. The shards sliced into his hands, leaving them dripping with blood, yet he felt nothing. He simply stared at the devastation and let out a roar of pain and despair, like a wounded beast. Why wouldn't you wait for me? Why him? Chen Yan rushed in at the noise, horrified by the sight before him. He tried to intervene. General, your hand, get out of my sight. Fu Han's eyes were bloodshot, looking utterly unhinged. She eventually she loathed me. She chose someone else. Ha. Ha ha. He laughed maniacally, a sound more tragic than weeping, until his strength gave way. A mouthful of blood suddenly spurted from his lips, splattering the wall crimson as he collapsed straight to the floor. From that day on, Fu Hang fell into complete decline. His military authority was gradually stripped away, his old subordinates drifted away, and the general's manor fell silent and desolate. He was constantly drunk, and in his cups he would mutter to the withered jasmine plant, sometimes begging, sometimes cursing. Mad and deranged, he became a figure everyone in the capital city sighed over and avoided. But your story with Hiyu was just beginning. You shared common interests and treated each other with respect. Everything happened naturally. The Empress Dowager bestowed the marriage upon you personally, hailing you as a match made in heaven, a tale told throughout the land. On the eve of the wedding, while sorting through your belongings, you found the handkerchief with the half-embroidered mandarin ducks. You looked at it for a moment, then gently tossed it into the brazier. The flames leaped up, swallowing the lone mandarin duck and consuming all the past foolish obsession and resentment. The firelight danced on your tranquil face. There was no reluctance, no resentment, only a sense of relief and clarity. Outside the window, Hiyu was personally supervising the servants as they carefully transplanted several rare jasmine plants he had found into the courtyard. He turned back, saw you standing by the window, and smiled. His gaze was warm and clear, just as it had always been.